Right to our guests, and our guests sitting next to me, I have Laurie LaFond, and then we have Cliff Oliver. He's a photographer. And then over there with that beautiful bird, what is that now?
Northern Harrier.
A Northern Harrier, and that is Kelly Martin over there. Martin's a bird too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. This is absolutely perfect this way. We're going to talk about the Raptor Fest, and the Raptor Fest is being held 23rd and 24th up near Fort Edward. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's going to have free flight raptor shows, live bird of prey programs, and there'll be different topics. Kelly will be there with more birds, introducing you to some of our native raptors and some of our more endangered and at-risk birds. And the reason we hold the Winter Raptor Fest is we're trying to raise awareness of and protection for state endangered short-eared owls and other threatened and at-risk birds, like the Northern Harrier is a threatened bird. And this area up in Fort Edward is critical to their survival in New York State of the short-eared owls, and it supports almost a dozen other threatened and at-risk birds. So we've been working for the last 3 years to try and raise awareness. We feel that if people know about these awesome birds, they'll want to help us protect this area. And we also have horse-drawn sleigh or wagon rides at the event.
So it's an event for the entire family. Is that what you're trying to point out? Cliff is a photographer. You love to take pictures. I know that.
Yes.
You've been taking a lot of pictures this morning. And we're going to write to Kelly. Kelly, tell us a little bit about this harrier.
A Northern Harrier is a threatened species in New York, and part of the largest problem for these birds is, in fact, habitat, because they're a ground nesting hawk.
Oh, so their nests are right on the
ground.
So
they don't nest in trees.
If do they like nest in fields?
In fields, and historically, before man altered the landscape so dramatically, they did inhabit large native grassland areas, which we don't have so much of anymore in New York. So they've been relegated to nesting in farmers' fields, and the problem is that nesting season coincides with haying season.
Oh.
So a farmer may not be aware that there's a nest in his field, hay the field and destroy the nests.
And that's how you received this one?
Yes, in fact, this bird didn't have a physical disability. I'm a wildlife rehabilitator, so I get in sick, injured, orphaned wildlife. And she came to me a healthy chick, but she was so young, and I did not have an adult harrier to put her with to kind of properly socialize her, so she is what we call a human imprint. And she doesn't really know that it's not appropriate to hang out with people.
Well, she's been very nice this morning.
She is very good. And it is a female. It's one of the species of hawks where you can tell the difference between the males and the females by the coloring and the markings.
Oh, it's the coloring and markings.
Yes.
Like
the males are more gray.
Yeah, the robins and things like that. You can tell the difference that way, yeah. And we were talking about the eyes, and they really kind of can see, because they're going to look for those little mice. And
they are predators, so they have excellent eyesight. They hunt primarily by eyesight. The harrier is a little different than most hawks because they do have the feathering around the face that is more owl-like, and that is designed to enhance hearing, which most hawks do not use hearing for hunting, but the harrier does.
Oh, okay.
Because their flight pattern is so different than other hawks. They fly very low and very slow.
So they kind of swoop down. That's like the harrier jets.
Like the harrier jets. It's low over the fields. It's incredibly graceful. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and I know that, like we talked about the red hawks that just kind of circle around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, these are not a soaring hawk.
And you're going to get another bird, and when you do that, I'm going to talk to Cliff here.
Alrighty.
You're a photographer, and how did you get involved with this organization?
Geez, I don't know how I did get involved with this organization. How was
You came to the first Winter Raptor Fest, and just let me mention that it's the Washington County Grasslands, and there's an important bird area within this area. Kelly mentioned that we've lost a lot of our grasslands, and this is the largest remaining one in eastern New York State. And then it's a 13,000 acre grassland area, and the core area of it is 2,000 acres, and that's the important bird area that we're trying to protect. Mm-hmm. So Cliff came to our first Winter Raptor Fest that we held, And he was really into it and gung-ho and taking photos.
And
he
it was
offered,
wonderful.
He offered to let us use his photos, and we got talking, and I invited him to join our board.
And he's the one that suggested that you come on the show, I think.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Here's our endangered short-eared owls. They're awesome. They're incredible.
Oh,
they're one
and
of
they're
the few,
beautiful.
Yes, they're one of the few owl species.
And it looks
that
like
are
he's got
active
an
in the
injured
day.
wing.
This one did have an injured wing. It was hit by a car, and his
love the
right
face.
wing was injured. Now, if Cliff can hold the mic for a second, they are called short-eared owls because they're supposed to have feather tufts that that stand up, but he doesn't like to put his up. But I can show you where they should be.
Okay, good.
Maybe.
Well, hello there.
They should be right up in here.
You mean they actually stick up?
They should. They do when they want to communicate. Right now, he's not happy about people, so. But they should be right there.
I'll be darned. Well, they're short-eared anyway,
They're short,
so.
unlike the great horned owl, which has long ones, and a long-eared owl, which
I love
has
the eyes
long
on
ones.
these owls. My gosh, they are just so beautiful, aren't they?
They are beautiful.
And we
And
get
they are so accurate. I mean.
Well, they must. Now, does this, he can see, yeah, I can see. He can see straight down, so he.
Yeah, their eyesight is adapted for hunting in low light conditions, but owls don't just use their eyesight, they also use their hearing. They triangulate in on sounds, and so they use sight and sound for hunting.
Okay. It's a beautiful bird. And now we can see that one wing is injured
Yes.
and the other one is just beautiful. Now, can this bird fly?
Limited.
Limited.
Limited. So it is unable to be released back into the wild.
Okay. But it's pretty happy, I think.
Yes, and it does have a companion short-eared,
Oh, good.
but I do think they're both males, so.
Oh, well. Do they have a territorial problem?
They don't seem to, no.
Okay, good. Now, will these birds be available to look at the Raptor Fest?
No, yes, absolutely,
Okay, good.
plus several other species of raptors.
Okay, good.
And probably a vulture and other
Oh, a
interesting
vulture.
things.
Turkey
yeah.
vulture? Or
Turkey vulture.
Yeah, they're around, yeah. Dick, could you get a shot of that? I mean, with a camera. Oh, you're with my camera. I'm sorry. I just want some pictures.
and I just like
You'll have to just ignore me while I talk to other people here on the show. So one more time, tell us where it is, where it's located, how they find it, how they sign up. Do they have to register on the web or what?
The best way to find out about it, go to winterraptorfest.com, and you can find out all the details. We have the schedule of events on there. You can get directions. And one thing I wanted to add is this Washington County Grassland Important Bird Area is critical to the survival of the short-eared owls in New York State. There's less than 100 of them on annual average left in the wild in this
What?
state.
Did you
Less
say
than
100?
Less
Less than 100.
And
Oh my goodness!
so we
I mean,
get, the cool thing about them in winter, they'll flock together. So we get them, we've seen as many as a dozen. I've seen over 2 dozen at once.
In
and-
one sitting, at
now,
one
do
time.
they nest in the trees?
They
No,
nest
they
in
nest
the
on
ground.
the ground.
They're the ground nesters too, because I know eagles nest in the trees, so I kind of thought any of those predatory birds would nest in the trees, but they don't, do they?
That's why they're so vulnerable to the habitat loss and to the fragmentation.
Yeah.
And also the way they hunt is low over the ground. So when you start breaking that up with houses and roads, a lot of these owls get hit by cars. That and the habitat loss is the biggest threats to them. And we are facing, we were talking about that before, we're facing threats of development in that area. And we want to do land purchases. There's landowners that would like us to purchase their land and get it conserved for the important bird area. So that's something we want to work on
And
this
we
year.
didn't really mention that, but we do have a website up called the IBAFriends.org, and that's the important bird area of Friends.
Yeah, Friends of the IBA. Both of those are our websites, so you can learn more about the birds and Friends of the IBA on the IBAFriends.org, and more about Winter Raptor Fest on winterraptorfest.com.
What a great event that is. And if you're looking to educate your kids in actually seeing these up close and personal rather than just on the Discovery Channel or something, this is really a way to find out more about them and also learn and be able to appreciate them and perhaps support these organizations that are doing such wonderful work. Thank you for being here. And that owl is just, that short-eared owl is beautiful. Love the eyes. Gee, they're incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
Thank
here
you so
today.
much,
Thank you.
And we're going to be watching for our next break a little bit more about the Raptor Fest film that they did provide to us. So take a look at that. And when we come back, we're going to be learning about taxes from our favorite people, Melinda Burns and Beth Ann Smith. Stay tuned.
It's March 2012, and Winter Raptor Fest is in full swing at Gallop Ridge Farm. Hundreds of folks are here to see the magnificent birds of prey that call the important bird area near Fort Edward, New York, home. The two-day event is equal parts wildlife seminar and wholesome family fun. From horse-drawn sleigh rides and children's activities to live bird demonstrations, the event offers something for everyone. Raptor Fest features an introduction to the endangered, threatened, and at-risk birds of the IBA, wildlife rehabilitation presentations, and New York State DEC efforts to ban and track endangered short-eared owls. The organizer of Raptor Fest is Friends of the IBA, and their goal is to raise awareness of and support for endangered short-eared owls and other at-risk birds of the Washington County Grasslands Important Bird Area, or IBA for short. Friends of the IBA know public awareness and support is essential to their efforts to protect.
We're going to take another quick break, take a look at the Raptors. If you want to learn more about the Wildwood program, go to their website, or if you want to learn about taxes, then there's more. Go dial 411 211.
211.
Why do I want the 411?
We'll get you 211.
Yeah, 211. Get it, 211.
211.
And give them a call, and they'll tell you. They won't tell you how to do it, but they'll give you
They'll
point
tell
you
you
in the
where
right
to go,
direction.
and they'll give you the number to call and tell you where a site is
Right.
close to you. We have 23 sites, and last year, Beth didn't mention, we brought in $13 million
Yay!
into the
13
capital
million.
region.
Yay,
So
yay. Okay, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about signal girls. Well, their guide anyway. Stay tuned.
Many other birds, including almost a dozen threatened, at-risk, and rapidly declining species. Raptors like short-eared owls and northern harriers depend on the IBA's large populations of small mammals such as mice and its vast, open expanses of grasslands to accommodate their low, aerial hunting style. Other at-risk birds that depend on the IBA include northern harriers, American kestrels, upland sandpipers, eastern meadowlarks, horned larks, and grasshopper sparrows. Friends of the IBA is working with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and other partners to protect some of the short-eared owl's most important habitat in New York State. New York State DEC has identified a 2,000-acre area of the IBA identified as critical to the survival of short-eared owls in New York State. To date,
Wagon rides at the event.
So it's an event for the entire family. Is that what
Yeah,
you're trying to point out? Cliff is a photographer. You love to take pictures. I know that.
Yes.
You've been taking a lot of pictures this morning. And we're going to write to Kelly. Kelly, tell us a little bit about this harrier.
A northern harrier is a threatened species in New York, and part of the largest problem for these birds is, in fact, habitat, because they're a ground nesting hawk.
Oh, so
and
their nests are right on the ground. So
They don't nest in trees.
Endangered short-eared owls and other threatened and at-risk birds, like the northern harrier, is a threatened bird. And this area up in Fort Edward is critical to their survival in New York State of the short-eared owls, and it supports almost a dozen other threatened and at-risk birds. So we've been working for the last 3 years to try and raise awareness. We feel that if people know about these awesome birds, they'll want to help us protect this area. And we also have horse-drawn sleigh or
right to our guests, and our guests sitting next to me, I have Laurie LaFond, and then we have Cliff Oliver. He's a photographer. And then over there with that beautiful bird. What is that now?
Northern harrier.
A northern harrier, and that is Kelly, Kelly Martin over there. Martin's a bird too, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Purple
This
martin.
is absolutely perfect this way. We're going to talk about the Raptor Fest, and the Raptor Fest is being held 23rd and 24th up near Fort Edward. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's going to have free flight raptor shows, live bird of prey programs, and there'll be different topics. Kelly will be there with more birds, introducing you to some of our native raptors and some of our more endangered and at-risk birds. And the reason we hold the Winter Raptor Fest is we're trying to raise awareness of and protection for
If there are, do they like nest in fields?
In fields, and historically, before man altered the landscape so dramatically, they did inhabit large native grassland areas, which we don't have so much of anymore in New York. So they've been relegated to nesting in farmers' fields, and the problem is that nesting season coincides with haying season.
Oh.
So a farmer may not be aware that there's a nest in his field, hay the field, and destroy the nests.
And that's how you